would like to thank our amazing sponsors, Touring Plans Travel. Their destination specialists work with you to plan and book your trip. Whether you're traveling to a theme park, headed out on a cruise, or wanting to get away anywhere in the world. As experts in smart travel, their agents suggest the best itineraries and activities to fit your family's needs and handle all the reservations on your behalf. There is no cost to you or your family when using Touring Plans Travel services, and you may even save some money if discounts become available after booking. So head over to touringplans.com/travel and tell them Rope Drop Radio sent you. Now, on to the show.
Helping you navigate the Disney parks.
With the hope that it will be a source of joy and inspiration to all the world.
You're listening to Rope Drop Radio.
Welcome to another Rope Drop Radio. Derek and Doug talking all things Disney. And Doug, today we're going on a safari. We're talking about something we've never talked about in this show.
And it's amazing that we've never talked about this topic.
Yes.
Blows my mind.
Yes, Adventures by Disney with an awesome guest coming on because Doug and I did not go on a safari, though we should.
We did not go on a safari.
Yes.
No,
So one of our Patreons, Alex, will be joining us here in a minute. Speaking of Patreons, we have a new Patreon we need to give a shout out to, Stephanie Green. No, sorry if I misspelled your last name. Close, hopefully enough. Thank you so much.
I don't think you misspelled it. It'd be mispronounced.
There you go. Pronounced. Yes. You spelled. There you go. Anyway, Thank you to all of our Patreons for supporting Rope Drop Radio, even though I misspell them, missay them, all the things.
When do you misspell them? They type it for
I'm actually working.
I'm
working on it right now. We're sending out things to some Patreons right now. So I've realized spelling is an issue for Derek. Anyway, thank you so much for getting the after show and all the fun things that we were able to do with you guys throughout this last year. It was a lot of fun as I was going through pictures this week. So thank you, Patreons.
All right. And thinking of things that are fun, we will be at Disney World on May 30th, most likely in the Magic Kingdom. Book a trip, come join us, and if you really want to spend more time with us,
dessert party would be fun that night.
That if you can get it right.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Can't promise that to lots of people, but so May 31st we board the Star Cruiser. There's still rooms available if you want to cruise the galaxy with us. Far.
That's a safari in
away.
Its own.
It is a different type. And we also love it when you leave Apple Podcast reviews. So today we will read another installment of Apple Podcast reviews. This is titled Hilarious and Accurate with 3 exclamation marks. Our guest probably won't agree with that whole title. Anywho, it's by Sliss.
Always accurate with saying and spelling people's names and podcast names.
That's a username.
There you go.
Yeah. Guys, you are so fun and entertaining to listen to, and I always learn at least one thing every time I listen. I'm training for my first Run Disney event for next year, and your podcast is in my top 5 for my runs. Last week, I had to stop and laugh out loud at the dad jokes that Derek shares about filling up the car at the Speedway. I love that he did a daddy-daughter trip and let her choose the day. Well, I love it and hate it at the same time with my kids, to be honest. It's about the memories, right? Guys, keep up the hilarious banter, great honest tips, and keeping it real. P.S. Please explain more about Chewbacca mode for Smuggler's Run. Inquiring minds need to know for a future trip.
Ooh, you know what? The guests that we have on today did Chewbacca mode with us. That might be part of the Patreon show. Maybe we'll bring that up a little bit and some things with our recent trip. How about that?
That's good. The big key is you have to have a party of 6.
Yes.
To do Chewbacca mode. If you don't
don't
even talk about it. Yeah.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you so much for leaving those reviews. Keep them up, and let's get on to the show, because today we are going to adventure beyond the parks and beyond the ships. We will explore another vacation option from the mouse, and that is Adventures by Disney. And to do this, we welcome back from South Africa, Destination Specialist of Touring Plans, Mr. Alex Cenac. Thank you for joining us, and glad you got back safely.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. You've been on many times over the years, but why don't you just give a quick update to your Disney background for everyone?
Well, I've been a travel agent for 9 years. I've been with Touring Plans for two years. Only went to the parks one time as a child. We actually did Disneyland first and then Disney World. We did them in the same year, and then didn't actually start going regularly until we had kids, and it was after Katrina. So I'm relatively still, I guess, feel like I'm new to the going to Disney because I didn't go up going every year like you guys did as a child, but we go as much as we can. I probably spend about 30 nights a year in Orlando. So
Just a few.
occupational hazard.
And congratulations, you were just Unofficial Guide ranked you as one of the top agents from Touring Plans as well. So congratulations on being one of the best TAs out there, Alex.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, let's dive into it. We need to start with, what is an ABD?
So, Adventures by Disney, it's Disney's kind of niche travel product that they have. It's for small groups, and they normally take a group. It's probably about anywhere between 30 and 40. Most are, because that's how many people can fit on a bus or a coach, depending on where you are in the world. And and they do, week-long adventures is normally the case for destinations all across the world, and then Canada and America, right? So they'll do the typical. They'll do in Italy, they'll do a France, they'll do a London and a Paris. They have a Scotland, they have an Ireland. And then they have some really niche ones, right? They have Iceland, and they have China, and they have Australia, and they have Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, and then they have South Africa, and then they also have some shorter escapes. You can go to New York City, you can go to Disneyland, and then there's some other ones. I think Michelle has booked. There's some ones in Norway from some of the Norwegian cruises that you can add on with Disney Cruise Line. And so, they have a bunch of different products, and you're essentially traveling with Disney fans, with kind of like-minded people. There are some adult-only adventures, which are awesome. And then there's some, but most are family-friendly. They have some age limits, but, Adventures by Disney, it's, their niche kind of group travel product that's outside of the parks.
Did it still feel like Disney, sort of, somewhat, if that makes sense?
Only to the extent, so every Adventures by Disney adventure, there's two guides, right? One is the local guide, right? So in our adventure, one was from Cape Town, South African, through and through. The other one was a Disney cast member, and he was, entertainment cast member. He was Yago on Aladdin at DCA for, years.
Wow.
And, and he was an adventure guide. He's been on, tons of different adventures, Wyoming, winter Wyoming, I think China, and he's done, South Africa. So he was the Disney guy, right? He brought in kind of that Disney feel, but, you couldn't have told him apart other than the accent, no, I mean, other than some kind of Lion King touches, it really, you couldn't have identified us as a group from Disney in any shape. Maybe some of the people had some, I wear my Disney Cruise Line hat, and some of the people maybe had, Mickey shirts on, but that's about it, right? It was as put together as a group tour as you could be.
Alex, you're a travel agent. You've booked Adventures by Disney. Is this something that you've been wanting to do for a while yourself?
Yeah, I have. We've always looked at, for me, how I looked at Adventures by Disney is that, we did France this summer on our own. I've traveled to Italy. I've traveled kind of, all over. I would look at Adventures by Disney as, a place where I would feel comfortable traveling with Disney, trust Disney, especially after the past couple of years with COVID. I would trust that Adventures by Disney would be a place to go to, like China or to Japan or to Australia or to South Africa, a place where it's far away, where the travel's hard, where there's a language difference, or some cultural differences, or, where you're spending so much that it has to be perfect, and you just know Disney's going to deliver on that product. So that's I have wanted to do an adventure before. I did the San Francisco Escape, or kind of even a mini version. So I have some experience with it. But Adventures by Disney is definitely something that I want to do, and I want to do with my family.
Nice. It does seem like they kind of have this protective bubble where they take care of a lot of things for you logistically. Like you mentioned doing Paris and Italy on your own. Was this a lot less stressful then in the planning process? Almost like you just show up and go?
Yeah, and that was kind of the beauty of the whole deal is, could I have planned this same trip? Yes, I could have. There was a couple of things that I probably couldn't have pulled off, that kind of that pixie dust that Disney kind of throws in. But I would have spent, or my travel agent would have spent hours and hours and hours, planning this, done a ton of research, gone down the web, down the dark of the internet, trying to research and find things. And it would have been very, I could have done something comparable. Now, that time that I spent doing all that probably would have equaled the adventure fare, if not greater. And so being able to get off, almost 24 hours of travel, and, then have my brain shut off for the next 10 days was pretty fantastic. And that's where, an Adventures by Disney comes in, where it is stress-free travel.
Nice. Yeah. That I know, like the stuff we've done on our own overseas, I really dive in, and I mean, I'm looking at Google Street View before I pick a hotel, like that's the sort of level of planning you got to do, so that eliminates all that nonsense.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And that's awesome to do, especially if it fits your personality. And it's fun. I mean, we did the same thing this summer, doing France. A couple of days in, my brother-in-law looked at, because we had a guide a couple of days that was recommended some from friends. And we had a guide. And my brother-in-law was like, we could have done this on our own. I was like, John, you could have done this on your own after spending about 40 hours on the computer doing all this.
There you go.
And the beauty of the guide. So I traveled with my dad. My wife wasn't able to come. And, the awesome thing about the guide and the adventure is you're all on the same schedule. And yes, that can be a negative to some extent, but it's super nice when you're getting up and you're down. My dad is like, hey, Dad, we have to be at the bus for 8 a.m. Or, hey, Dad, the safari, we're leaving at 4:15, you need to be ready. It wasn't, I didn't have to put my foot down, just like I didn't have to put my foot down this summer with my kids, or even my nieces, or, my sister, or whatever. It's like, hey, the guide's telling us what time to go. The guide is going, the bus is going, and you're going to make 30 other people wait if you're late. And so that was a fantastic part about having everything done. Is it you're on a schedule because you paid so much, and you want to see everything. You don't want to go all the way across the world and spend all your time waiting on a bus, or waiting for a whole group of people to move in lockstep. Mm-hmm. It's everybody gets with it, and everybody understands that. All right, we gotta go. We never had any hiccups, which was pretty awesome.
So is that kind of what the day by day is like on an ABD? Like you have a pretty set schedule every day for the whole 10 days you were there?
Yeah, so, they gave us a schedule, and we had kind of an itinerary, and, but on the very first day, they made changes because the weather, we were supposed to go straight up to Table Mountain on the first morning, and they ended up being cloudy. And so there's no point of going all the way up to Table Mountain because couldn't see anything, couldn't take any pictures. And so they called an audible, and the guests, the guides rearranged some things, and we went to, we did up to Signal Hill, which is just below, also nice views, but not something they normally do, but the guides knew what to do. Right. And so then, went to District 6 to go see some of the apartheid stuff, had a special guest speaker, went and had lunch. And by that time, Table Mountain had cleared up. So we were able to go do that. So the guides, were able to call audibles. I don't know how it works, in other places. Obviously, if you're going to the museum, there's no clouds in the Vatican, and so that's pretty going to stay. But if there's some of the things, I know my Iceland clients, who went over the summer, they had a couple of things where they rearranged because of weather, but and that's so. But you have a set schedule, but the guides are able to be flexible.
Are most of the meals included along the way?
Yeah, and that was nice too. So there were some times where you're staying at 5 stars resort, so these hotels are fantastic. The breakfast buffets were the nicest I've been to in a while, and and then most of the lunches. There's a couple of dinners on ours where you had some free time, which was nice because we got to actually have some downtime. Go relax and then kind of get away from the group a little bit. And I got to spend kind of one-on-one time with my dad, and so that it is nice. But most of the meals on most of the adventures, they're just like that. There's probably just a handful that meals that are not included. Again, they kind of want to keep people. And then lunch, you're normally out and about, and I could have planned this trip all by myself. I wouldn't have known to go to the restaurant they took us to the first day, and it was this wonderful Muslim family who prepared us these super authentic dishes that were just fantastic, and I'd have never found that place in a million years. And so that was one of the neat things about that. And we got to talk and visit with the people who were there, because it was just us in the restaurant. So that was one of those kind of unique experiences. But then we had some dinners. You ask the guides, or you even ask the concierge at the hotel, where to go, and they're right on it. They know exactly where to go, and they're sending you off with a great recommendation.
Yeah, so let's. I saw some of your pictures. I saw some of the things you did. South Africa looked amazing. What are some of your top 3 highlights from the trip? I'm sure we could talk the next hour on South Africa, but let's. What are some of the best things you did?
Yeah, I mean, 1, 2, and 3 are the safari, right? But if you had to have some honorable mentions, going down to the Cape of Good Hope was really neat. Just because I'm a nerd, and so the geography nerd, and so being able to go down there was really neat to see, and a fun thing to go do because you saw some of the countryside. And then I guess one of the other unique things is we had a lunch at a winery with one of the sommeliers who their wine had won, one of the prestigious, South African wine awards for the year. And so he got a tasting specifically from him where he went through all the wines. And so that was pretty neat. And then, the last Disney, we had another lunch at another winery after we had kind of a raptor experience with some birds. We'd done the whole, seeing the history, and everybody knows the history of Nelson Mandela. If you don't know the history, go read the history of Nelson Mandela and who he was, and why he's one of the greatest humans of the past century. And his prison guard wrote an autobiography and about his time with Mandela, and then he came and spoke to us during the lunch, which was pretty fantastic as well. But top 1, 2, 3 is the safari. So,
did the penguins make the list at all? Meeting penguins? Did you get to pet a penguin?
I stay away from things that bite. So, so it was neat. That was a penguin encounter. Again, that's probably something I could have found on my own. But the way how they planned that whole day, and the lunch we had before, and the advice on when we showed up, it wasn't crowded. Walked right in. We're not doing anything. We're not buying tickets. We're not having to worry about any of those things. We're just walking in because Disney's taking care of everything. They're like, let's go here, let's go here, let's go here, picture here, go. And you're like, all right. And so and you walk out of the thing. You're not schlepping back to your car or waiting for an Uber. The bus is literally right waiting for you. You hop on and you go. So
nice. What is something that you would have skipped if you had planned the ABD?
the last day we were on the garden route in George and in Nizhna, we saw we went to like essentially a reclaimed kind of animal. And reclaimed is not the right word, but kind of like the zoo we all have, where we call it Wild Africa Trek in Phoenix, right? And there's where you see lions and tigers and they're in this, fake jungle setting. And we saw, lions, and it was all white tiger, and mostly things that have been pets that people have had to forfeit or whatever. And it was fantastic to see those things. And you, of course, you're behind fences and things like that. And the reason why I think they do that is because if you go on the safari and you don't see the animals, at least they kind of can say, well, you were in South Africa and you saw a lion, you saw a tiger, things like that. And then they also do it is because you're behind the fence. On the safari, there's no fence. You are as close as you were to that lion and that tiger at that zoo. You're in the safari, and we were just as close, and there's no fence. So
a little bit better than what you get at Animal Kingdom. Okay.
Yeah, so that's the one thing I would have skipped, per se. But, I totally understand why we actually did it in terms of the tour. And so it actually made sense to me after we did the safari. So
you got to see all the things on the safari, it seemed like, in your pictures. Was there anything you missed?
Yeah, so there's a big five, right? It's buffalo, lion, elephant, rhino, leopard, right? And, we saw the big five. And so and Disney is the guys are very clear, just like everything, 84% of the people leave, South Africa without seeing the big five. And they made it very, I think we saw the big five within on our third out of 6 safaris. Right. And I think most other groups saw it that same day as well. We all had these super just, and they were, even the trackers were like, you guys have completely lucked out. This is not normal. Anything you're seeing. And so, so we saw, we saw some amazing things, some breathtaking things that, I could have never imagined. And again, no fences, no, the ranger has no gun, the tracker has no gun. It's just you and the animals and nature, and it is fantastic. In fact, I mean, you get out at some points, and we had coffee and muffins just out in the middle of the preserve, and then in the evening ones, you're out and it's pitch dark except for some, they have a torch, and you're having a glass of wine and some, ostrich beef jerky, just in the middle of the preserve. And it's the most surreal thing, but it's just awesome.
Sounds like a bucket list item for all of our listeners for sure.
Yeah, it was a thing. I never thought I wanted to go to South Africa. Now that I went, I definitely, it'd be something that I want to go back to. I would bring, the family back to, for a big milestone, and my dad's already trying to figure out how to go back. He fell in love. So.
Wow. Do you think the family atmosphere on the ABD is definitely something worth doing with a wide range of ages?
Yeah, so ours was not a typical, it was all travel agents and some, including a bunch of Disney employees, and so we were all fairly like-minded, and so we all got along kind of immediately, but I've had clients who did the Ireland this summer, and they're doing the Italy Amalfi again next summer. And they're like, we bonded with the other family with kids. They had she has a 7-year-old, and they're traveling together. She traveled with her dad and her sister and her husband. And so, a multi-generational trip. And then they were sitting there making friends with the other families, and they were all planning to try and go on the same ABD again next year together. And wow. So, I've made some friends on that, trip that, we had a fantastic time with. And it is so true, especially coming back from hearing from clients how, they've bonded with, and you're always like, bonded, what do you like? And then it's so true that you bond with the people you travel with. And I'm fairly private. I'm very, me, we've traveled together how many times? You know how I am. I'm very set in my ways. And it was really, really nice to break out of my comfort zone. And I think mainly because I wasn't in charge and I let other people control, and I actually got to relax and enjoy myself where, here's a novel thing. That was actually a vacation.
Oh, there you go.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Throwing around big words.
Yeah. And it's completely the opposite of going to Disney World, right? Like it is where you don't have to listen to, Rope Drop, Adventures by Disney, version podcast to know what to expect on your, you just show up. It's not like Disney World where you have to listen to podcasts to figure, what to do just on your, how to make a reservation. So.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. Yeah. So there you go. You got one ABD in. So do you have another one planned or anything you want to do?
I don't think it was 24 hours, and I'd already been looking through the list to see where what was available for Monique and I to kind of do one, an adult exclusive, kind of her and I together next summer. And so that when we were out, the Adriatic one came out. Mm-hmm. And that one looks pretty fantastic. You're on a pontoon ship, and you do some kind of unique stuff in Croatia and Slovenia, and in and out of Venice. And so that one looks pretty neat. Japan, I'm 46 right now, so maybe 50th birthday Japan would be something. That's on the radar because that you could do the parks as well. So
I don't know. That could be something if you want us to tag along in a few years, Alex.
Yeah, that would be awesome. We could do Michelle's 40th and my 50th at the same time, or however old y'all are.
Yeah,
29th.
There you go, forever.
Young whippersnappers. So.
It'd be about my 45th, so
that would be my 40th. So there you go. Yeah, that sounds great to me.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Go to Japan, ABD.
Yeah.
Awesome, very cool. I tell you what, it's something that I definitely want to do. I'm excited to try at some point. I could see Michelle and I doing it, and the kids are, we're on the downhill slope on getting them all out of the house. So I don't know. Maybe we wait for them to vanish and then we go all willy-nilly. We can go whenever we want.
There you go. That sounds magical. And that's a vacation, Doug.
I don't know what those are.
Yeah.
I haven't had one for so long. I've had trips.
Yeah. Trips are, yes.
I think that was the best thing you said. It's a vacation.
It's a vacation.
Adventures by Disney, they do all the work, all the planning, all the magic. You just get to show up and have an amazing time at any of these incredible locations. It's not just like one or two. I mean, you can go online and see the massive list. I mean, you kind of can imagine a vacation, and they probably have an ABD to that location.
Well, like the thing like Rome, for example, I spent I don't know how many hours selecting the hotel. Like countless hours, just to make sure it was adequate and my wife didn't immediately want to file for divorce, because that's about what happened in London after hours of research, right? And then once you're there, there's a restaurant, like not on every corner in Rome. It's like 3 per block. So how do you know which one's actually good? I read so much wasted. Then when you get there, it's like, I'm hungry. There's a restaurant. Let's go. Where the Adventures by Disney, like you said,
no, we're going to this restaurant. Yep, they got it.
The number of hours you plan probably equals the cost difference between doing it on your own and paying for them to babysit you. Very elaborate babysitting.
I love the thrill of the chase. I love research and finding that stuff out, and that's kind of why I do what I do, right? And I would assume for you, it's a break from soccer club president and dentist and dad,
no longer resigned.
All those things. But that I get the research aspect of it, and I get wanting to get the most value for your dollar, and I understand those. But if you want to just turn your brain off and just go, and it's awesome. Because I did no research on before. I just, I've tried to figure out how to pronounce a couple of words and I couldn't, and and that's the extent of what I did. The hardest thing was trying to figure out airfare. But that's a unique. I mean, it's pretty. Airfare is just it's hard to find the airfare to Orlando, and so but it is awesome. And just like you said, just find a destination you want to go to, and if ABD goes there, I'd highly recommend looking at ABD, reaching out to somebody at Touring Plans, to help you plan that ABD. So.
Yeah, I think the one that appeals to me the most might be Cambodia. I really want to go to Cambodia to see all of the ancient architecture
Angkor Wat,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, Angkor Wat, especially. But Cambodia is a place that if I went to on my own, I would die. I would not survive. Mango is in the
everywhere.
air.
Yep.
Everywhere. It's the staple food. So could you imagine being the poor guide that has to schlep me around Cambodia and not kill me?
Well, I mean, in South Africa, right, there was gluten-free options for everywhere we went because one of the, attendees was gluten-free. And so they had, they take care of that kind of stuff.
See,
and
that's
kind of the,
that's awesome.
yeah. And so it's
Yeah.
just, it is very much like Disney. You're getting that Disney service, from both guides, and then, and you're getting, things like that. As hotels, when you're staying, I mean, I probably could have found the hotels we stayed in. I would have second guessed myself a bunch of times. The hotels we stayed in were just unbelievable.
Well, Alex, you are a travel agent on Touring Plans. Touring Plans books a ton of these. Take like a couple minutes right now and let our listeners know about Touring Plans. You guys really are the experts in helping, and so let our listeners know more about booking ABD and how they can do that.
Yeah, so Adventures by Disney, it is they'll release their schedules. It's real similar to cruise schedules, right? Where they'll announce out the schedules, and you have to kind of be a little bit prepared. The one deal with Adventure by Disney is that the deposit is non-refundable. You can move the deposit to a future adventure, but there are some different things you have to do. There are some waivers and things you have to sign. And so, but with Adventures by Disney, I trust their, they handled themselves amazingly well during COVID in relation to, refunds and then allowing people to rebook. And they were very, safe and straightforward about how they operated. And so, Adventures by Disney is something I would trust. Listen, there's other, touring plans. We can book it all. There's Talc, there
Globus.
is, Globus, Cosmos, Monograms, those, tour products, and listen, Disney owns, National Geographic now. And so you book those through G Adventures. Mm-hmm. I actually researched some National Geographic ones last night. And there's a couple in there that look pretty amazing. Those are small group, very similar kind of expedition style, so there are, all the agents have experience. I know Kelly Ibarra just took a group with CIE to Ireland, and CIE, they specialize in Ireland. So that's I've booked clients to Adventure by Disney Ireland. CIE is another company that I know that I would trust doing Ireland. It's those, and then, the River Cruises, Adventure by Disney has a River Cruise product. They partner with AMA. And so that's one that's on the list to do, because that does the Rhine River, does the Danube, and then they do, I think they do Paris as well, the Seine up. So there's, touring plans, there's 12 agents, all of whom are, professionals who are full-time agents who are knowledgeable and that will take, those intricacies of booking these trips, because they're not easy to book, because there's a lot of parameters that you have to jump through to book it, and you want to make sure you're booking the right thing, because that deposit is non-refundable. So you want to make sure you're booking with someone that is knowledgeable about not only the product but also the destination. So.
Well, Alex, thank you so much again for being on another episode. I think this is like your 20th, so I don't know what kind of prize you win after being on so many times. But
it's like Steve Martin, and I just get a jacket, right? Steve Martin.
Yes.
Or a red snapper.
Yeah.
If you need us to autograph something for you, we can do that as well. But why don't you take a minute and tell people where they can find you to see all the pictures you posted from your awesome travel?
Yeah, I'm at Cenac Travel, which is CENAC. Travel on Instagram and Twitter.
Awesome. And thank you again for coming on the show. It sounds so much fun. Doug and I are both really jealous, and definitely listeners, if you want to go on Adventures by Disney, you need to reach out to touringplans.com/travel. Let them know we sent you. Of course, Alex and the rest of the team would love to work with you. Seriously, if you're going to go, I love it that just take the stress off. Don't do it yourself. Don't do it, Doug, and spend hours and hours and hours trying to research. Just book it and have some fun and have a vacation. So again, Alex, thank you for being on. We're going to get on to the after show, talk to Alex some more. So if you want to hear that, you're going to have to go in the show notes, click that Patreon tab. But for Doug and Alex, I'm Derek. You've been listening to Rope Drop Radio.